like clock. I can't stop. Fuck around, make my 40 pop.
The next chapter of Boruto is most likely going to be one of the greatest Naruto chapters of all time. And of course, one of the biggest problems about that chapter is Isshiki Ōtsutsuki going to be full power, and he's going to be looking for Kawaki. And if he does not get Kawaki, he's definitely willing to destroy the whole village. Now, of course, the main thing is going to be, how can we actually beat Isshiki Ōtsutsuki? Now, I understand the nostalgia behind 8 Gates, but in this particular situation, I strongly doubt that it would do much. 1000% Isshiki Ōtsutsuki will definitely not be phased by 8 Gates Rock Lee. One of the things that I feel like a lot of people don't really understand is the fact that Naruto and Sasuke, when they got the Sage 6 Pass Chakra, they were on par with 8 Gates Might Guy and how strong they were. Actually, a lot of people argue that they're faster and also stronger. Of course, there is those two famous situations where Might Guy did actually hit Madara, and Madara was completely folded afterwards. The first one being is when, of course, he was helped out by Minato, and then he punched him basically in the bubble. And the more famous one was the latter, when Might Guy literally broke his whole leg but kicked Madara, and that right there pretty much shattered Madara's ribcage. Might Guy actually bent space itself. That was cool. That was definitely impressive. But if we take a look at when Naruto and Sasuke actually got their Sage 6 Pass Chakra, Madara was completely shell-shocked, and we automatically understood that these guys have taken another step. In fact, when Sasuke blitzed Madara himself, he literally cut Madara in half. Literally, just one shot at Madara completely cut my man's in half. And to remind you guys, arguably that Sasuke faster and stronger than Might Guy. That Sasuke was only 17 years old. We're talking about a baby Sasuke. A Sasuke that doesn't even know how to use his Rinnegan yet. A baby Sasuke. Now we have adult Sasuke and adult Naruto blitzing Jigen, not even full power Isshiki Ōtsutsuki, and Isshiki is just completely handling them. So when it comes to 8 Gates Rock Lee and Isshiki Ōtsutsuki, just off of speed and strength feats, it doesn't make any sense. It definitely does not match up. In my opinion, it would definitely be a very terrible scene if they were to match up in a situation like that. Now, not only that, I think one of the biggest things that a lot of people do gloss over is the fact that Isshiki Ōtsutsuki, he's essentially a shinobi. Like, I talk about this a lot. He has the freakiness of an Otsutsuki member, but he also fights like a shinobi. Isshiki Ōtsutsuki is extremely different from a character like Momoshiki, where Momoshiki, the only way to beat him was pretty much through taijutsu. In the case of Isshiki Ōtsutsuki, one of the worst things to do with him is actually try to fight him with taijutsu. We've seen this in both of the fights that Isshiki Ōtsutsuki had. Of course, if you guys do recall, back when he was fighting Naruto and Sasuke, one of the things that he kept doing over and over and over, whenever Sasuke and Naruto tried to blitz him, he just completely impaled them with small rods that basically popped up out of nowhere. And he did the exact same thing to Kashin Koji as well. Whenever Kashin Koji would attempt to blitz Isshiki Ōtsutsuki and try to fight him with taijutsu, he just impaled him as well with those small rods. And I think that would definitely be the exact same thing in this particular situation if Rock Lee and 8 Gates would also try to blitz Isshiki Ōtsutsuki. He'd just be completely impaled with those rods. And that would definitely be a very bad thing, mainly because already Rock Lee's body would already be breaking down from him being in 8 Gates. If you guys do recall, when Might Guy went into 8 Gates, his bones were breaking and cracking as he was actually attacking. And one of the things that I actually got from the fight with Might Guy when he did go into 8 Gates, it didn't really look like Might Guy could take a counter attack. If you guys do recall, Madara basically sent a couple of truth-seeking orbs at Might Guy, and Might Guy in that particular situation was about to be done for. He was about to be completely finished. But it turns out that Minato pretty much saved him with his teleportation jutsu. Now at that particular point, I mean, like, the truth-seeking orbs were literally a couple of inches away from Might Guy, and Might Guy definitely didn't look like he had a backup plan of how to actually dodge those truth-seeking orbs. It looked like he was just about to take them head on, and without Minato, he would have probably been done for. And because of that, that really doesn't give me any confidence to think that 8 Gates Rock Lee would be able to dodge rods such as that, especially now when you can't even really see the rods when they're coming out of nowhere. Now, I do want to point this out. I do definitely believe that if Rock Lee goes into 8 Gates, it wouldn't hurt Naruto and Sasuke. Of course, at this particular point, they could take all the help that they need, but from what we have seen before, it really doesn't seem like Rock Lee in 8 Gates would make that much of a difference. And that's just assuming that he's going to be at the same level as a character like Might Guy, who's been through multiple wars, and it's been well documented how those wars actually aided the progression of a shinobi. Rock Lee has only been through one war, and at the age of 16, there is pretty much no more confrontation in the main villages. So in this particular situation, I just really think that the risk outweighs the benefits, because we have to understand the 8 Gates, it's usually a death sentence. Might Guy got off good beam because Naruto was there, but at this particular point, it's been highly speculated that Naruto lost a lot of his Sage 6 Paths powers. He doesn't have the true seeking orbs, and of course at this particular point, we don't know if he still has the same healing abilities that he did have back in the day. And even so, it doesn't necessarily guarantee that Naruto is going to be able to heal Rock Lee in the midst of fighting Isshiki Ōtsutsuki. Now, real quick, to get off of speaking logically, and because we're talking about anime right now, I definitely would not be surprised if they were to give 8 Gates Rock Lee a sizable boost that could potentially cause some trouble for Isshiki Ōtsutsuki. Now, as I said, logically, it wouldn't make any sense. But since we're talking about anime, you have to understand characters need to evolve for the times. Now, I understand that a lot of you guys don't really watch an anime like Dragon Ball Z, but if you guys don't necessarily watch, you guys are going to still understand where I'm coming from. In Dragon Ball Z, there's a character called Krillin. Now, at the beginning, Krillin was definitely weaker than the main character, extremely weaker than the main character, and he was still a lot weaker than a lot of the villains that were there, especially at the time. Now, over the progression of the storyline, of course, Krillin was still weak. He was still on par. So, for example, if you take Krillin from the beginning of Dragon Ball Z to the end of Dragon Ball Z, he himself was substantially stronger, even though at a certain point in the storyline, he stopped training. And even in Dragon Ball Super right now, you can make the argument that that Krillin right there is stronger than one of the biggest villains in Dragon Ball Z, which is Frieza when he was first introduced. Now, me just saying that, it would sound absolutely ridiculous, but when you look at the actual power scaling of what Krillin is actually doing in Dragon Ball Super, it sounds extremely feasible. And that's only possible mainly because the writers understand for this character to not be completely irrelevant, they have to boost his abilities in some sort of way. But one of the things that I do want to point out, I've never really seen this happen before in Naruto. So because the anime of Naruto hasn't really done that before, it would probably be out of character for them to start doing that now. And I do want to point this out, it's not necessarily like Naruto doesn't necessarily do anything like that. For example, one of the more physical changes that we did see is Kakashi getting another Sharingan, then immediately snapping in to a full-blown Susanoo. No practice, no nothing. That right there in itself is an example, but it's kind of a lesser example mainly because we actually seen physical change in Kakashi. He actually got another Sharingan. So if that is the case, and 8 Gates is actually scaled to the times where now 8 Gates could potentially rival a character like Isshiki Ōtsutsuki, probably not beat him completely, but also potentially just be slightly slower than Isshiki Ōtsutsuki and slightly less powerful than Isshiki Ōtsutsuki, I definitely wouldn't be surprised. And of course, if that is the case, he'd definitely be a great addition to the team of Naruto and Sasuke. But for right now, when we talk about logically speaking, scaling that 8 Gates to the 8 Gates that we did see versus Madara with Might Guy, it wouldn't make any sense. As I said, just off of the fact that the feats wouldn't match up, and also one of the worst things to do with Isshiki Ōtsutsuki is to try to attack him with taijutsu. That just does not work. But let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section below, and give me your opinions. Do you guys think that Rock Lee is going to play a big part in this upcoming chapter? I really hope he does, but logically it just wouldn't match up. Real quick before I go, I do want to say that Boruto did actually release Volume 9 in English. Volume 9 actually covers Delta versus Naruto, and also Kawaki warring up to Naruto, pretty much like a father figure. But also, if you guys do want to give back to the Boruto franchise, I think that this right here is definitely going to be one of the best ways to do it. I personally buy from Amazon and ships to Amazon Prime. It comes like the next day for me. But it's been your boy Baara B, and we out.
It's a knife.